marvelous Monday, and that everybody's making progress with their finances. Let's pray and get started. Dear God, we thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity just to say thank you, Lord. We thank you for every family that is represented here. We ask that you will continue to wrap your arms around each and every one of them. Lord, bless their finances like only you can. God, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to be good stewards. Lord God, we thank you for the resources that you provide for us to steward over. God, we ask that you just continue to walk with us, hold our hand on this financial freedom journey. Help us to find the things that are going to not only help us to build wealth for ourselves, but also for many generations to come. Lord, I ask that anyone who has a specific prayer request, God, that you would just touch it right now. I thank you in advance for the amazing night that we're going to have. I thank you for our speaker. I thank you that Arvest has chosen us to provide resources and information to. Lord, please allow Mr. Gwynn to give everything that's going to be beneficial to all the people that are here tonight. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. You better pray, honey. Oh yes. Okay, wonderful. All right, Marcus, we're gonna get us. We have your screen shared here. While I do a short introduction, we want to make sure we pull the PowerPoint up. Make sure we have that. May have to let me do something real quick. All right. So Mr. Marcus Gwynn is going to be sharing some wonderful credit tips. And I know last week we told you all to pull your credit reports and things like that from annualcreditreport.com. It is free, and he's going to actually go over how to read that thing, how to make sure that that you are aware of how to manage your credit and do a whole lot of great stuff. Mr. Marcus has been in banking probably 20 plus years, so I won't steal his thunder. I will let him share that himself. So Mr. Marcus Gwynn, it is all yours. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you, Candace. I appreciate it. And really is my pleasure being here with you tonight and to share some information with you. Hopefully you will find it useful. I am confident that you will find it useful. And I think if you will go with me through these slides real quickly, we want to leave plenty of time for questions and answers. But I think if you will follow me, there are just 10 slides. So I wanted to make the slide presentation really short so that we could have plenty of time to answer your questions. But if you'll walk with me through these slides and then sort of, look at the information, I am confident that you will improve your credit score and you will improve your life because, believe it or not, the pressure is lighter, the load is lighter when your credit report is at a level where your credit score is high enough where you can walk into a bank or into any finance company or onto a automobile dealership lot and make a purchase, and you know your credit score is high, you know it's good, you know you're going to qualify, so it takes all of the pressure off of you, and quite frankly, it takes all of the anxiety off of you. So we're going to walk through a couple of things here. We're going to start by talking about, credit history, what it is. We're going to talk about what good credit is. We'll talk a little bit about what a credit report is. We'll talk about your credit score. We've got a little session called Don't Be Fooled because there are a lot of credit websites out there, but annualcreditreport.com is the only official site that is directed by federal law to provide credit reports to you. So you can go to other sites like Credit Karma and they'll charge you a fee for your credit report. But annualcreditreport.com is the only official site. So annualcreditreport.com. If you'll remember that and jot it down, then you'll always have it. One thing that's really interesting is that during COVID, generally you can request a copy of your credit report annually. So you have the option to request your report from one of the three major credit bureaus once a year. So you can actually get 3 reports from annualcreditreport.com in a given year under normal circumstances. So you can get a TransUnion report, you can get an Equifax or an Experian. So there are 3 different reports, but you can get one of each. And actually you can pull one each quarter if you like, just to keep up with your report and history. So a lot of people may not know that, but you can do that, and it's totally free. But under COVID conditions, actually annualcreditreport.com is allowing you to pull a copy of your credit report weekly, which is very, very unusual. But that's because of COVID. A lot of people are at home, and also, we're going to talk a little bit about fraud here a little bit later, but it's also to help you spot identity theft and or potential things that may not look quite right on your credit report. All right. So having said that, we'll jump right in. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me. We've got some people monitoring the chat. If there's a question that I don't get to in the chat, hopefully my helpers will see it. Sometimes they get to rolling in pretty fast. If we overlook your question, be patient. We'll come back to you and try to answer everyone's question. Sound good?
Yes.
All right. Good deal. Okay, so first up here, the first slide here. Let me find my cursor here. It's worked really well when we planned it, and of course, when you go live, there we go. Yeah. All right. So first up, the credit history there. So your credit history is really, the one thing that determines your personal credit score. You will see a slide a little bit later where I will actually break down the components of the credit score, so you will know exactly what you need to do to increase your credit score. So credit scores goes as high as 850, and it's very, very common for us to see customers walk into the bank with the 800 plus credit score. And it's because they understand the slide that I'm going to show you a little bit later. But really, when you look at your credit history, they contain things like bankruptcies, late payments, high credit card balances, basically how you pay your bills. So if you have debt that's reported to the credit bureau, then that debt is going to appear on your credit history or on your credit report in your credit history. So good credit is important really for a number of reasons, as we talked about before. If you'd like to rent an apartment, if you want to buy a car, if you like to open up a new bank account, or a new loan, or take out a new loan, then chances are your credit report is going to be pulled, and you will be judged based on your credit score. So the number that is representative of your credit history is what you will be judged on. And there's no magic to it. That number is just a representation of how you pay your bills. And translate that into a banker speak, it is what kind of risk you are to the bank. Because if you've had several accounts in the past, if you've had several credit cards in the past, if you've had several car loans in the past, and you've not paid those, those or made those payments timely, then chances are you're a little bit higher risk to us on paper, because we feel like if there's a pattern there, that you just may not pay us on time either. So you're higher credit risk. So this class is really designed so that you can walk into the bank with confidence. You can smile as you're walking through the doors, and they greet you at Arvest Bank and say, "Welcome to Arvest." And you know that when you walk in, that you are going to leave with a loan and get the best interest rate, or the lowest interest rate possible. So good credit is very, very important, and it is real important, as you all have experienced already. Pulling a copy of your credit report is the first step, of improving your credit score, because you have to know what's actually on your report if you want to make changes to it. And we'll talk a little bit more in depth about the credit report and what is made up there here in just a little bit. Questions so far?
No.
All right, good deal. We'll keep on pushing. So again, what is a credit report? Credit card accounts, loan payments, things that have revolving payments where you're paying someone on a monthly basis. Now, things like utility payments do not show up on your credit report. So I want to make that clear, like a water bill, the energy bill, electric bill, those things do not show up. They do not report to the credit bureau unless you have a charge off or there's some balance owed, or there's some legal action that they're taking, or some collection action that they're taking against you. Then that will show up on your credit report at the very top of it, and we'll show you that here in just a second. Candace, were you able to put the documents in the chat room? She may have stepped away for a minute. Okay, we'll talk about the actual credit report. There's a TransUnion credit report user guide that we're going to put in the chat for you if it's not already there. All right, so next up. So where do credit reports come from? So
hey Marcus.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Before you go, did we get the question answered that was in the chat about does all three companies have the same scoring as the 850 as their high score?
Yes, it is. Although the three different companies uses or might use a different model to compute your score, yes, the scale is going to be the same, where 850 is going to be the maximum score. So it goes from like 250 to 850. 250 being really bad, 850 being really good.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss that.
Good deal. Thank you. I didn't see that, so I appreciate it. All right. So where do credit reports come from? So really, when you make a monthly payment, as I mentioned before, for example, when you make a payment to a bank where you're paying your mortgage payment monthly, each time you make a payment, then the bank is going to report to the credit bureau that you made that payment on time. And there are different codes to designate whether your payment was made on time, whether it was 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days late, and so on and so forth, that we'll get into just a little bit later. But every time that you make a payment, it's recorded on your credit report. And as I mentioned before, it's really, really important that you make those payments on time because you establish a pattern of good credit history and timely payments, good credit payments, and a good credit history with timely monthly payments each month and each time you make a payment. Already talked about the credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Those are the three major credit bureaus that operate nationwide. So chances are when you go to apply for a loan, one of these credit reports will be pulled. If you apply for a mortgage, sometimes there's a triple merge going on where they might pull a copy of each of your credit reports and compare the scores. And they might take the highest score, they might take an average. It just depends on your mortgage company how that works. But it's known as a triple merge, and that just means that they pull all three reports, one from Equifax, one from Experian, and then one from TransUnion. And that's why I say, if you don't do anything else, pull a free copy of your credit report periodically throughout the year and just take a look at it. It doesn't hurt your credit score. It doesn't bring your credit score down. It is perfectly fine for you to pull a copy and just take a look at it and make sure that everything is accurate. Make sure that little small things like your name is correct and isn't misspelled, because believe it or not, little errors like that can bring down your credit score. All right. Questions? If not, then we'll keep on. Did I hear a question? No? Okay. So what is a credit rating? Again, it is a component of your credit history. So all of the things that show up on your credit report that is indicative of your borrowing is really those things that combined makes up your credit score. So if you have revolving charge cards, if you have a dealer's card, if you have a credit card, if you have an automobile loan, if you have a mortgage, all those things in the payment history is factored into a scoring model that tells how timely your monthly payments are, and that results in a credit score or a credit rating. And as I said, if you have a low credit score, you're typically going to pay a higher interest rate. If you have a high credit score, then you're going to pay a lower interest rate. So the better your credit score, the lower your rate. Also, if you want to rent an apartment, they'll pull your credit score to get an idea of what kind of risk you are, and that could affect the cost of the apartment there or the lease.
So Marcus, is one report like Equifax, TransUnion, or what's the other one, Lord? Experian. There we go. Is one report better than the other? Was the question that was asked?
Yeah, great question. No, they're all the same. I say all the same, about the same quality. Again, you might have a different credit score, but there's not one that's better than the other one. TransUnion is the one that's probably the most popular. It's the one a lot of banks use, but Equifax and Experian are just as good. It's just a matter of preference sometimes for the bank or the financial institution or finance company, but one is not better than the other.
Okay, and if I have different information on like various addresses on each of my credit reports, how can I fix this? Would a letter to each individual credit agency help?
Yes. So yes, and we'll cover in depth the credit report. But yes, if there's any discrepancy, you can write a letter to the credit bureau, each one that has a discrepancy on it, and ask them to correct it. And by law, they have a certain amount of time to correct the information that's out there, and they have a set amount of time to respond to you that they have corrected the information. So it's always good to write letters if there's anything that's on your report that should not be there. And Candace, you might help me out in terms of the time frame that it takes. I don't have that in my notes, I don't think, but in terms of the time frame that it takes for the credit bureau to respond to you from the time that they receive your request, they either have to remove it or they investigate it and mail you a letter back saying that or giving you documentation showing that it is accurate.
Yes, it should be within 30 days of receiving it. Most times they say 45 days to investigate and stuff, but 30 to 45 days is the timeline.
Yeah, so it's pretty quick. It's pretty quick when you write the letter. It is really pretty quick and pretty easy. Other questions in the chat, Candace?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Great job.
Good deal. All right, so who's allowed to see your credit report? Creditors, employers, insurers, as I mentioned, government agencies, maybe that's taking a look at benefits for you. But basically anyone that has a legitimate, business reason or need for the information can see your credit report. All right. So where do consumer reporting agencies get their information from? I touched on this slightly, but basically anyone that you have credit with, so financial institutions primarily, are the ones, finance companies, if you finance a car through the dealership, GM, whether it's, BMW, GM, whomever, anyone who is extending credit to you will generally be the ones reporting your payment history to the credit bureau or to the credit agencies. All right, so what makes up a credit score? I think I heard someone ask that. Psychic, yes, I knew someone asked that question. So what makes up a credit score? So payment history there is 35% of it. So how you pay your monthly payments, how you make your monthly payments, whether or not you have payments made on time, whether they're 30 days late, whether they are 60 days late, whether they're 90 days late, that makes up 35%. The bulk of your payment history and the bulk of your credit score is 35%. You see the range there. I think I said 250, but it's 300 to 850. We don't see very many credit scores down in that lower range. Typically, the average credit score that we see at the bank is about we're between 775 and 800. We see occasionally some customers come in on the lower range. The lowest credit score I've seen has been in the 500s. So I've never seen one as low as 300. I've seen them in the 500s. Our minimum credit score at our bank is 640. Different banks have different minimums. Some banks might have 630, might be 625 or 620, but RVS is 640. And again, the maximum is 850. We regularly see customers with 800 plus credit scores. But the average, if you factor in all the customers that we see, the average is going to be in that 775 range, 775-ish. So again, payment history makes up 35%, the bulk of your actual credit score. Outstanding debt. So if you have a credit card, for example, that has a $10,000 balance on it, and you owe $9,999, and it stays there, that is going to hurt your credit score because you have maxed it out. If you have that same $10,000 credit card and your balance stays about $4,000, $5,000, that's going to really, really help your credit score. And obviously, if it's lower than that, then it's really going to benefit you. Why? Because really, that's an indication of how you manage your credit card. So if you're constantly maxing out your credit card, for example, then banks tend to think that you might be a little bit higher risk. Now, if you charge something, $1,000, you pay it back every month, and your maximum balance is $10,000, and that's going to be to your benefit because it's an indication that you're managing your finances, you're living within your means, you're not maxing out all of your debt, and so that's going to help your credit score, and that alone makes up another 30% of your credit score. So just those two items, 65% of your credit score. If you want to impact your credit score, then if you focus on those two things, then you'll start seeing some movement. Length of credit history. So 15% of your credit score is 15% weighting on your credit score. So if you had a loan with the bank for a long period of time, that's going to help you. Conversely, if you have new credit, not very many credit records or trade lines, then that's going to lower your credit score just simply because you don't have the history out there that says, look, they're positive, they're a great credit risk, and here's the history, a long history to prove it, that they make their payments on time, they're not late, so again, if you have a short amount of history, then it's hard for banks to really get a feel for what your payment ability is. And then, of course, the credit mix. So if you have retail accounts, installment accounts, mortgage loans, so the mix of credit If you have a car loan, if you have a home loan and a few charge cards, then that's a good mix. As long as you're not maxing out, those charge cards, that's a great credit mix. And that to the bank that says you are a lower risk, so your credit score is going to be much better. And then new credit makes up 10%. So you have a whole lot of open lines. If you apply for credit everywhere, there are soft pulls and there are hard pulls. So soft pulls are generally things that, like if you get a pre-approved credit card offer in the mail, if you read the fine print, you still have to qualify. And in fact, most credit cards, the fine print will actually read that not everyone will qualify. But that's a soft pull. It does not affect your credit score. And the credit card company does not do a hard pull until you actually sign the form or go online and formally apply. And then they will do what they call a hard pull and actually pull your credit score. And then each one of those pulls does affect your credit score.
Marcus, we've got a question in the chat, but before we get there, you were just talking about soft pulls and hard pulls.
Mm-hmm.
What about when we go to the car dealership and they pull it several times to try to get us the best rate? Does that count as one hard pull?
No, good question. So generally when you go to a car dealership, the way the financing works there is usually there's a finance manager, and what they do is they have a relationship with several banks and finance companies. So typically what they do is they will fax your application to several banks and trying to get the best deal for you, allegedly. And but they will fax it to several banks, and then each bank is going to pull your credit. So that is not one. And I've actually seen credit scores drop after someone has applied for a car because there were 3 hard pulls from companies where they actually did not receive a loan. So let's just say that the finance manager at the dealership sends your information to Regions, Bank of America, US Bank, and Arvest. Then whoever responds with the best rate is typically the person who's going to get the deal. Well, if you got the loan from Arvest and the other banks still pull, those are still hard pulls. And so to a banker, I don't know if you got a loan from Arvest or if you got a loan from Bank of America or US Bank or Regions, because they all show up as an inquiry. So I would caution you to, if you can, it's always nice to get pre-approved before you go to the dealership. A couple of things, it gives you a little bit more leverage and bargaining power. Typically, in this environment where inventory is hard to get, maybe not so much, but it does make it easier for you to go into the dealership and purchase a car and leave without having to sit around and wait for the financing to go through and be approved. Usually speaking, when you walk onto a dealership lot and you say that you have your financing, you're going to get some attention. If the salesman really wants to sell a car, it's just better to have your financing pre-approved. It's quicker, faster, easier, and you generally get a better deal.
Okay. Question from the chat: what's a reasonable amount of credit cards to own, or does this even matter how many you have?
Yes. So, having too many credit cards, gosh, that's a hard question. I guess if there's a number, I would say having 2 or 3. I don't know if the wise man is on or not, but he might have some thoughts about it. But I would say having 3 credit cards. When you start to have more than that, a couple of things. You're going to be tempted to use them if you're not disciplined enough to have them and not use them, because there always seems to be some emergency that pops up. Could be a car repair tires, battery, whatever the case might be. So I would say really, the question is, how many credit cards do you really need? And, some people have credit cards for the points, and they use one card. I have friends who have several cards. I would say, really, 2 or 3 cards really should be enough for most people, but that's going to vary by the individual.
I have another question in the chat. When shopping for insurance, what's the best way to do it so that it doesn't hurt your credit?
Yeah, that's an insurance question.
Well, typically, I'll take a stab at that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Typically, you kind of want to know your credit score before you go in there. So you got some negotiating factors. The credit is just one of the factors being shopped for insurance. About 75-80% of it is based off of your driving record. So it impacts your insurance. It can raise a little bit, but it's not a major deal. That's why it's so important to kind of know where your credit is at and know about your insurer that you're looking at. Make sure they're not using credit as a heavy weighting piece to charge you a high rate. So that's a good question.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, Marcus, on that other question about the credit cards, we typically, as financial advisors, don't warn anybody over 5 cards. Those cards are kind of based off to what kind of assets they have, emergency funds. We tend to have a lot of our clients use their credit cards as an emergency fund if they don't have their emergency fund built up in a cash investment account. So sometimes the credit cards with discipline can be a good emergency fund at that particular point, of course. And most important, like you said earlier, it's the credit miss. It's that 30 or 32%, 35%. They just don't want you to ever go over that. Once you start going over that 30, 35%, of course, like you said earlier, the scores start going backwards. So that's kind of the way we look at it from a financial advisor perspective.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
We have a hand raised and it says iPhone, so I'm not sure who it is.
That's me.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I've got 2 questions and we kind of got past it, but if we can revert back, you were talking about a vehicle purchase and like knowing your credit score and bargaining power prior to going in to make the purchase. But if you go in and say you make a purchase for a Honda vehicle and you tell the finance people and whomever, the car salesman or lady, that you are specific to, say, Honda financing, are they still going to refer you to multiple financial resources, or will they stick strictly to Honda and do one pool?
Yeah, so great question. If you want to stick with a certain finance company, then it is up to you. You can say, hey, I only want to go through Honda financing or Honda finance company, and then they will not send your application, to multiple banks. But you have to tell them up front before the finance manager does it. And so if you catch him early enough, he will be more than happy to oblige you.
Okay, and the other thing is, and this honestly did happen, I had a 40-year credit, say with Sears, and I forget about having Sears since they closed, and good credit with them. And I know that hurt my credit probably. They closed my Sears account. I got a letter after it was closed, just recently in the last 2 months. So that's a negative impact in it because I had that credit card forever. No balance. I wasn't using it and they closed the store. So I only used it like for miscellaneous items or batteries, tires, that type of stuff.
Right.
So
yes, that is actually pretty common, even if, for companies who are not going out of business, sometimes it's a credit decision, and, banks and finance companies, if you don't utilize, if there's a long period of time of stagnant usage or no usage, then, banks are in the business to make money. As we talked about before, we talked about the buildings and we talked about the interest. I think Candace did a wonderful job, and they always make me blush a little bit. But really, if you are not using a credit card, then there are times when the finance company says, okay, I'm going to lower your limit or close out that card, and so that I can have that availability for someone else who is actually going to use the card. And I think that's the other thing about having, too many cards. It's nice, but it's tempting to use them. And then if you don't use them, then you always run the risk of your limit being reduced, just because there's no usage or even eliminated.
Right. Well, I honestly used to use it, but when they closed the local Sears stores,
Right.
I didn't focus on it. I really didn't intend for that to be closed because that was my longevity credit card,
Right.
the first one I ever had.
Right.
And I guess you know how old I am now, but it was over 40 years old, good standing. But yes, they closed my Sears account. So that lowered my credit score is what I'm asking, didn't it? Probably.
Well, it depends on the rest of your credit history. So that one card may not have, if there was no balance on it. But generally speaking, the longer your history, the better your score, as long as that history is good, paid on time history.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Anytime. Other questions, Jamil, in the chat?
We do. We have a 23-year-old daughter that's in grad school, no credit history at the time. She's going to be traveling out of the country. Is it best to make her an authorized user on our account, or should she establish her own credit with her own credit card?
Great question. It depends. Just know that when you make someone an authorized user on your account, you assume responsibility for all the charges on that account. So she sounds like she is a responsible individual. So it's really up to you. If she doesn't have any history and you're trying to get her established, then it might be good to for her to apply for a card in her name. So it depends. That's a toss-up. It depends.
Here's the last one. How do you know how the insurance company is using your credit score? What would I ask? We're about to reach out for cars and homes. What questions would they ask about consideration for their credit score when dealing with insurance companies?
Again, that's an insurance question. Not really qualified to answer that one. Because of the risk focus. Again, Deacon Thomas may be on the line and can address it.
Yeah, Marcus, just ask them. Hey, listen, how do you weight my credit? Are you going to run my credit? If you are going to run my credit, what's the weight on my insurance rating? Just ask them a direct question. You have a right to ask that question.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can also research the insurance company before you do business with them to see if they run a hard credit report on you, something of that nature. Most time the insurance credit reports are soft. Most time you'll never see them. Just it be as an inquiry, but it won't be a hard one. Just be a soft one. Good question.
Yeah, very much so. So this is the slide. This is the slide. This is the slide. If you want to improve your credit score, if you will look at this slide right here, we've talked about it. So this is we've talked about it in words. And this is just a pie chart, to really help me illustrate, the importance of payment history, amounts owed, and length of credit history. 80% weighting of your score. If you would focus on these three things right here, those three things, length of credit history, amounts owed, and payment history, I promise you, I don't make very many promises, but I promise you that you will improve your credit score. You will improve your credit score. And just because maybe somebody didn't hear me, you will improve your credit score. This is the slide that people pay money for. You guys are getting it free. This is the slide that people sit down with consultants and talk through. and actually pay for a consultation, and you are getting it free thanks to St. Mark and the team that you have here at Money Matters. So payment history, amounts owed, and length of credit history. Questions?
Say those three again.
Payment history, amounts owed, and length of credit history. So if you'll focus on making payments on time, within 30 days, no late payments. If you focus on the amounts owed, as I mentioned before, if you have a credit card that has a $10,000 balance, only charge it up a little bit. Do not charge it up to the full $9,999. So the relationship between your balance and what you owe is the amounts owed. And then the length of credit history. So every time you make a payment on time, you get credit for a good payment, and you're developing history. And the longer that history is, the better it is for you. As we just talked about with the young lady there. Okay, so real quickly, I want to switch my screen here and bring in a credit report. Bear with me just a second here. I'm going to stop sharing here. And then I'm going to.
Oh my.
What?
Somebody's paying attention to the payment history, I can tell. That baby's going to have good credit. Okay, so I thought I was going to share my screen, but so in the chat, did we put in the chat the user guide, the credit history user guide?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did. I'll add it again if we need to.
Okay. So I've got about 15 minutes or slightly less, 13 minutes before we take a break. I would like to talk about the credit report itself. So hopefully you all had a chance to pull your individual credit report. So just one disclaimer, if you have a question, if you'll make it general in nature, please don't share your personal information with the group. And obviously, I'll give you my phone number if you have any questions after the class is over. I'm happy to talk with you about it if you have specific questions about your credit report. But I talked about the actual credit report and making sure that things on your credit report are accurate. Believe it or not, a lot of times we'll see a credit report with the name misspelled. It makes a difference. I don't care if it's one letter, it makes a difference. That will pull your credit score down. If the information up top, on the top of the information is identifiable information to you, such as your name, date of birth, your social security number, telephone number, current address, previous addresses. I have seen previous addresses that were wrong, that were incorrect. And when customers wrote the letters to the credit bureau, the credit score improved. So please make sure that you check your individual credit reports for accuracy in your identifiable information up top. So again, the credit report is really just a list of your bills and your obligations and how you make those payments. But also there are some special messages that appear on your credit report. It talks about things like there's a fraud score if there is a social security discrepancy, if there's a discrepancy between your age, between your date of birth, if there's multiple employers, there's a thing called a hawk alert, and it just basically says slow down to the banker and make sure that the information is accurate, and we start to ask more questions of you about your social security number, about your date of birth, about your address, just to make sure. But these areas right here at the top of the credit report can really give you an indication of potential fraud. So if you pull your credit report and there's some information like a wrong social security number, or if there's any special messages up there that says fraud alert, that says hawk alert, anything like that, that might trigger you to write a letter to the credit bureau to correct whatever the information is on there that's wrong. There's also information about bankruptcies, public records, and other things that appear at the top of this credit report, the top half of the credit report. So if you file bankruptcy, or if there's a civil judgment that someone filed against you, it's going to show up there, and those things will lower your credit score. So it's very, very important for you to make sure that if anything of these items show up and they're inaccurate, that you want to write a letter to the credit bureau to get them corrected. Okay, collection items. I talked before about utility bills not showing up on your credit report unless they're in some type of collection status. If there's a utility bill that you owed from your previous apartment before you moved, broke the lease and didn't notify the apartment complex, typically things like that will show up on the top portion of your credit report. Any questions about that? I know moving a little fast, but this is very, very important that you take a look at this information and make sure that it is unique to you, that it's actually your information, and that it is actually accurate, because it does affect your credit score. Okay. Scrolling on down just a little bit toward the bottom half, we talked about public records. Let's talk about trade lines there. Typically, there's a description of the account or trade account that you have. For example, if it's a mortgage, if it's an automobile, it will actually say automobile, there's a collateral line there or column that designates the type of credit that you have there. So it could be a mortgage, could be a credit card, could be an automobile. And then it gives you information about closed or paid dates. If the account has been closed, there's an open date there. There's the high credit limit, and there's the balance. So typically, the high credit limit is going to be the maximum, and then your balance is going to be lower than that, hopefully much lower than that after this class, because you're going to maintain that ratio a little bit better, so it'll help improve your credit score. The terms, so is it 60 months? Is it 360 months if it's a mortgage? Is it 60 months if it's an automobile? If it's 72 months, 48 months? And then over to the right where it says the payment history there, or there you go, the PayPat. So that's where you see the numbers. So ones, if you'll hold that cursor right about there. So you see that 4 on that automobile. So that's an automobile, that ABC Bank. And there are some 4s and 5s there. So when you make your payment on time, 1s will show up. It will be a 1. So if it's a 4, that's not good. If it's a 5, it's really, really not good. So 5 is 120 days past due. 4s are 90 days, 60 to 90 days. So 1s are paid as agreed. So those are good. Payments are made on time. 2s, you're 30 to 59 days past due. And then 3s, you go from 60 to 89. And then, as I mentioned, 4s, you're 90 to 119 days past due. So that's not good. That is not a record that's indicative of a low risk individual. So when you walk into the bank, you want to have all 1s straight across. And we always encourage our customers to either make your payment on or before the due date, or better yet, set up an auto debit so that you know your payment's made on time every month. And all you have to do is just make sure that the account that the auto debit is tied to gets funded. And you can do that by, either having your paycheck, or a portion of your paycheck deposited into that account, or just simply tied to your main account where your paycheck goes every month. And then the auto debit kicks in, and you don't have to worry about having 2s, 3s, or 4s on your credit report there. Okay, so down toward the bottom of that same page, inquiries. We talked a little bit about inquiries before, but whenever someone pulls a soft or a hard pull, then the inquiries are going to show up there. And it's a good idea to not have a lot of inquiries. It's a great idea. Yes, auto pay is your friend when you're working to improve your credit, because despite our best efforts, it's happened to me. It happens to us all. We get busy and we forget a payment. It's not intentional, but it happens. And auto payment is definitely your friend when you're looking at really trying to improve your credit score. So that's the actual credit report. I invite you to take a look at it. This guide that's posted in the chat that I'm reading from here, how to read TransUnion, it is unique to TransUnion, but still the components are the same. The trades, the trade lines, the inquiries, the public records, all of those things are going to be pretty much the same, and in the same spot. All right. So that was shared with you in this meeting. But again, if you didn't get it, I'll be happy to email it to you or send it to you if you'll send me an email. All right. So I'm going to pause and see if anyone has any questions. Got 6:57. Questions?
I have a question. Is it advisable to pay your car payment all at once, or should you do it like half, based on your pay periods?
Yeah, I think we touched on that a little bit earlier. No, you're fine. I think that if you want to pay your car off earlier, you can essentially make an extra payment if you pay, or extra payments if you pay, for example, every 2 weeks as opposed to once a month. I think I don't know if Candice is still on the line, but I think she touched on that in one of the earlier classes.
Yes.
Because we're wanting you to become debt free, and part of our debt elimination strategies is to give you some tools to help you do that.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Other questions?
I wanted to know, does your credit with previous addresses on your credit report, can you have those deleted? Like if they go back 20 years, or is that something that the credit report has to have? I have they go back 20 years.
Yeah, so if it's that long, typically 7 to 10 years is going to be the standard. So if it goes back longer than that, then you can certainly update your credit file by simply writing a letter to them and asking them to delete that information off.
Okay, and my last question is, do you know if you become disabled, if you're working, then you become disabled, is there a way to handle your student loans so that you can get them maybe forgiven, or do you have to pay them down to a zero balance?
I'll take that, Marcus. So yes, if you are disabled and you have been you're eligible for disability, student loan does have a program Cannot, of course, give you any guarantees, but they do have a program that if you are disabled and can prove it, it is possible to waive those student loans. Yeah, that's it. So you should go to studentloans.gov, student loans with an s.gov, and they should have the information on there about that program. But that is true.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. No problem. Great question.
Thank you, Candace.
Awesome. Have a couple of questions in the chat, Marcus. So does your credit, nope, not that one. It was one more. What is the best method? And maybe you already answered this because I stepped away for like 2 seconds. What is the best method for a first-time credit application to be approved? Is it best to try to get a cosigner?
Yeah, if you don't have, for example, a student who may not have a credit history already established, there are a couple of ways you can get a cosigner, obviously, and so a parent can cosign to get a credit card to get them started. That person can also, a lot of banks have a secured credit card. A lot of companies have a secured credit card where, for example, you send in $300 and they'll issue you a credit card for $300. And so that's a good way for a student or someone to get started who doesn't have credit, or even adults if you don't have credit or looking to get reestablished. Another way to really start to, because really you need credit history, right? To go into a bank and apply for a loan. If you go in with a blank credit history, it doesn't give the bank much to go on by way of trying to assess your risk profile. So other ways to get started is most banks make CD loans. So you put $1,000 in a CD, you get $1,000 loan, you finance it, amortize it over 12 months, and you pay it back every month over 12 months. That helps you establish that credit history. Those are ways to get started. The secured credit card, a small loan, and you might even want to co-sign for someone that is needing to reestablish. I will caution you that I would not recommend co-signing for there are a select few times when I would recommend co-signing. Generally, if it's a student trying to get established, obviously you have to have credit to get credit. But we see this a lot. So I will just warn you, or not warn you, I'll just mention it. I would just caution you that if someone who is of age and their credit is not, let's just say where it should be, there's a reason. And if they don't pay the bank, then chances are they just might not pay you. So I would be very, very cautious about co-signing. I have 4 brothers. There's 3 of them I would co-sign for, and there was 1 I would absolutely not co-sign for. So just a word of caution. Be careful if you are co-signing, because when you co-sign, that is a direct obligation of you. Just keep that in mind. I know it says co-sign, but you are on the hook. And if that person doesn't pay, then the bank will be looking to you to pay. You are a co-borrower. As a matter of fact, now there's a notice to co-borrower that banks have you sign to clearly spell that out. Other questions?
Yes, I have a question about what you were saying, that twice a month paying every 2 weeks. Is it, what works the best? If you pay an extra payment per year, or if you pay maybe twice the amount towards your principal? What works the best?
That's a great question for Candace. I can just tell.
It is. That how about we do this? Let's take a break and then we'll go over the debt elimination and we can talk in very good detail about that. Because I think that's going to be I could answer it, but then it's also going to depend on a lot of other factors that we're going to talk about in just a moment.
Thank you.
No problem, Mr. Charles. All right, Marcus, anything else before we take a break? We're going to take 5.
Yeah, I just want to give everybody my contact information. I kind of had the slide up, and then I took it down, but I work for Authorized Bank downtown Little Rock in the Broadway building, but at the corner of Broadway and Capitol. So you got Authorized Bank right there on the corner. You've got Simmons across the street. You got Regions. I mean, it's like the banking corner. But my number is 379-501-379-7238. 379-7238. And my email address is mgwinn, that's spelled Guinn, mgwinn @arvest.com.
Awesome sauce. And we have that also in the chat right here. So that's awesome. Thank you for an amazing job, Marcus. It's been a really great night. We are going to take 5 minutes. Let's take 5 and then we'll be right back. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Candace. Great questions.
Oh yeah, really great questions. Let's see. Oh, let's do a pause here.
Here's off a 30-year note just by paying it bi-weekly. So if you added another one payment to it once a year, you probably take a 30-year note and knock it down to 13 or 14 years. But we're going to talk about all that tonight. So any more questions on that credit stuff, Candace, when we get going?
Absolutely. I just want to give a shout out. I think that's Miss Patricia said that she is very proud of the fact that she found an extra $500 to put toward debt.
Wow.
Ms. Patricia, congratulations. That's awesome. And for your testimony, I think we should give away a gift card. Yeah.
And also, Candace, that's great, but we have to make sure we caution her. Do we put it all toward debt, or do we put a certain portion toward debt and a certain portion toward investment? So that'll be a conversation we'll have on prioritizing where that money needs to go based off your needs, of course, with emergency fund and things of that nature. Congratulations on Miss Patricia. It's working for you.
That is good. That's good. All right. Miss Patricia will also send you a gift card in the mail. Congratulations. All right. So we are going to, let me cover this real quickly. I shared the information based on the disability information on student loans. I just went ahead and gave you the direct link. It's in the chat. Gives you exactly where to go to find that information about the disability, VA or Social Security disability for that program. So it is there. I don't remember who asked the question, but I wanted to give you directly where to go. All right. Perfect. So many of you have done
one of the caveat before you get into this on the credit cards, guys. Make sure you understand one thing. Actually, there's one question. If somebody can answer me, we can get another card out. So if a credit card is due on the 15th of the month and you don't pay it on time, should you wait till next month to pay it, or is there a system you need to use to pay that credit card so it doesn't count against you? Can somebody tell me how the billing cycles work on those credit cards? It's really important you get this. Due on the 15th, you can't pay it till the 25th. Should you pay it on the 25th? Just wait till the next month. Somebody tell me.
Pay it on the 25th if you can.
Yeah,
Typically,
Okay. Why should you pay it on the 25th?
because that's the 30-day period.
That's what now?
That's within the 30-day period of billing.
Okay, so if the bill is due on the 15th, you pay it on the 25th, is that late payment going to show in your credit report?
yes, it is, because you paid past the actual due date.
That's why I wanted to make sure you get this.
No, it has to be 30 days, isn't it? 30 days overdue.
It's got to go 30 days. It's got to go 30 days. So, yeah, kind of always know where your billing cycles are, because if you do get late, sometimes it's okay to pay the late fee, but make sure it doesn't go on your 30-day credit reporting. And understand what those billing cycles are. Just want to share that real quick, Candace, before we move forward. Okay.
All right, awesome. I think Kyron and Tanya, Ms. Jones would get that gift card because they kind of answered the question,
Okay.
right?
Good deal.
Yay!
All right, that's Jones at the end. Okay, perfect. Okay, wonderful, great. That's a great point. That's a great point, Mr. Thomas. All right, so we went to crown.org. Did you do your assignment? When will you know what? I'll know in just a moment. When will you be debt free? That's the question. I'll ask again. When will you be debt free? You should have a number. What is your number? How many years? This tells me right here if you did it or not. When will you be debt free?
Mine is 3 years.
3 years. Awesome, Miss Anise. 12 years now. Okay. All right,
Miss-
now 11
Miss
years.
Candace,
Patricia. Yes.
That's a hypothetical question because technically, as long as you live, you'll never be totally debt free, but you're referring to your current debt, right?
I don't totally agree with you.
I'm asking the question.
Good question.
Right?
Good question. If that's a question, yes. So debt is something that you can pay off, right? Your debt is something you can pay off. So your recurring expenses are just recurring expenses. Of course, you're always going to have those. But as it relates to debt, that is something that you have a payoff amount on, and we can be debt free even if we have regular recurring expenses, because the electric bill can never be paid off, right? The water bill can never be paid off. But as it relates to our debt, we can be debt free if we get those expenses and put them into play to where we can pay the actual debt amounts off. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little hurt and disappointed because I had just paid a vehicle off, and within 3 months it quit. It was brand new when I bought it, paid it off. Within 3 months, it went kaput, had to get another one. So
that's cool. What we
I
call
was
that.
hoping
That's
for
that
3
life
months.
cycle.
That's why I said, are we technically gonna be debt free?
Well, you were debt free for 3
For 3
months.
months? Well,
right?
from the
I mean,
vehicle.
that doesn't mean you weren't debt free. That just meant something happened and required you to have to go get another one. And that's definitely unfortunate. And I understand that, but that doesn't mean we can't be debt free.
Okay. You
Yeah.
just made me
Amen.
happy.
You can do it. And that's why having this plan, right? Having this plan that we're getting ready to put together, put your new car in it, right? We're getting ready to put together all the numbers. We have tons of people who've already done their numbers. They have 12 years and things like that because of the mortgages and different things, which is okay. But the plan, the thought process is let's get into the mindset that we can do it, and let's see what kind of disciplines we need to create to make sure we be able to reach our goals. Okay. Great. Wonderful. All right, here we go. So you went to crown.org, and if you all did your assignments, that is wonderful. Congratulations to you all. That's amazing. So we go to crown.org, go to financial calculators. And once we click financial calculators, we'll go to the debt snowball calculator. When you click that, you'll be able to, of course, pull up and it kind of reads through there, but we're going to go ahead and go through it since we went over this the last time, and it gives you the opportunity to put your debts in. So just for clarity, I want to make sure that when you're putting your information in this system, that I give you a slight piece of advice. Catherine says she did her assignments and cried. I understand. So when you're putting your information in, make sure that you input your data in this particular software. Now, all of the softwares don't work this way, but this one does. Put your data in from the lowest debt to the highest debt. If you don't do that, it may kind of mix up your numbers a little bit. So I'm definitely wanting to make sure I give you that piece of advice. So if you did not do it that way, do me a favor and go back and do it again. Okay. I know it may be a little tedious, and that's okay, but just do us both a favor. I promise you won't regret it, because there's a method to how you're putting it in, and there's a method to paying off that debt. Okay. So I'm going to put in an example of debts here. Let's say we have a Discover card. We owe let's say 1925 on that card. Interest rate probably a little higher than this, but I'll say 19.5, and your payment is $99 a month. All right, we're gonna add another one. Oh, we like Dillard's. We like to go and shop. Okay, $29.50 is what you owe on Dillard's. Let's say that interest rate is 26.5, and your payment amount every month is $150. Now I want to be very clear on the payment amounts. When you're doing this activity, do not put the amount that you pay over. I only want you to include the minimum payments. And the reason for that is because the minimum payments allows for you to see exactly what the amounts are per month so that we can apply all the extra funds to the actual debt elimination process. Okay, so we're using the minimum payments only on the cards. All right, so let's keep going. So from this, where we at? 150. Good. Capital One. All right, we got Capital One on here. Principal, we owe, what do we owe on Capital One? 3310. Interest rate 22.9. Sure. Let's do that one. Let's see if we can do one more. Here we go. How much we owe on Capital One? Capital One, we're gonna pay $225 a month. All right, got a few credit cards here, but that's all right. We're gonna keep going. Personal loan, times got a little tough. You decide to go get a personal loan from a bank. You owe them $35.13. That's a 7.9% interest rate, and your payment every month is $325. All right, let's keep going. Remember these numbers, you see the principal amounts, I'm going from low to high, okay? Low to high on my principal amounts, low to high. Good, so let's keep going. I got them in order, yes. All right, then I have a car. Well, I got a car loan. Young lady was just telling me, car loan, got another one. Well, it's okay because we're gonna put it in the plan and we're gonna make it happen, right? That interest rate is 5.5%. So we're gonna do that. And then let's keep going. Payment amount is $565. All right. And we got a home. Let's put the mortgage in there. Now, with all of this debt, okay, all of this debt, how many years do you anticipate that it's going to take to pay this debt off? I owe $250,000 on the loan. Let's put that $250 interest rate, 3.5%. Sure. And payment, let's say it's $1,200 a month. Sure. Okay. How many years? How many years? Oh, it was a good question in the chat. The question said, were you surprised by the interest rates on your accounts when you listed your debts? Absolutely. I know, right? All right, that's good. Who was that? Nell said she was really surprised. How many years do you think it's going to take to pay off these debts? Anybody got a guess? Anybody? We got 1, 2, 3 credit cards, a personal loan, a car, and a mortgage. How many years? Anybody want to take a stab at it? Well, you're like, Candace, I don't know how much money we're going to add to it. Let's add $100. How long is going to take? I'm only going to use 100. Ooh, that changed. 12 years, Kamira?
20
years, Deidre. Okay.
Okay.
Anybody? Let's see, 25 years from the Chapman family. 15 years, 14. Donnie said 13, 15. Okay, 30 years. All right. An extra $100 a month. And said 8 years. I was waiting on somebody. Let's see. If you get it right, I'm gonna get you a gift card. Let's see. $100 a month. Calculate results. Let's scroll to see how long. Ooh, 125 months. I'm saying $125. 125 months is how many years? Anybody? It's not 18 years. It's 10 years. Okay. Yes, you got it, Catherine. Good. 10 years. Now, nobody guessed it right? 125 months divided by 12 is 10 years, you all. I need you to come with me for just a minute. Okay, you coming with me? That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. But what it is that it's a strategy. That's the biggest key. So we're saying that it's going to take 10 years. Let's see how much debt we actually had. It says the principal balance. Oh yeah. The principal balance is $278,000, right at $279,000. The interest cost would have been $138,000, but with the accelerated plan, we could pay all of this off. It would have been 322 months. That's probably about 30 years, right?
It's
but
26.8.
26.8 years just got cut to 10 years with $100 a month. Now, Mr. Thomas would often say that $100 a month is $3.33 per day. I'm going to break this down for you, but I really just need us to pay attention to how this works. Okay, that's 10 years for everything: the mortgage, the credit cards, the car, everything. Y'all think we can work with this and actually put together a real plan to make this happen? Let's talk about the power of $3.33 a day. Let's do it. So from this perspective, all right, let's take a look at what's happening here. You remember earlier, I said, hey, don't take those amounts and spread them out. So what normally, Mr. Thomas, what people do, and we see this all the time, right? They get their money and they say, okay, I'm going to take $20, I'm putting on this card. I'm going to take another $20, I'm putting on that card. Oh, I got an extra check this month. I'm going to pay an extra $100 on that one over there just because I can get them cards down a little bit. That's spreading out your money, and there's not enough power of your dollar attacking your debt because you're spreading it out. But when we come together, and it's something great about coming together, we want to bring your finances together and say, you know what? Let's pay the minimums on all of the amounts, and we're going to attack one debt at a time. We're going to start with the lowest debt to the highest debt. All right. And this platform that we're showing you is going to give you exactly how to pay it off and what to do. All right, Mr. Thomas, you want to add anything to that before I go over this?
Well, yeah, it's really important to understand that we look at extra money going into debt. Look at it like an investment. I call it investing in your debt. So when you invested that $100 a month that you found into your debt, we cut, 16.8 years off of money that was planned to be spent. Now, later we're going to show you what that 16.8 years look like with money you already had planned. So you already had $2,590 every month planned to spend. Because with those credit cards, Candace, what normally happens to those credit cards? What do they do to them?
Oh man, they pay them down.
Pay them down, run them back up.
Run them back up.
Run them back up. So typically over a person's lifetime, they would have paid that $25.90 per month. But now you paid it off in 10 years. We're going to come back and show you how the same money you're already spending can create some awesome wealth, generational wealth for you and your family with money that was already allocated. So go ahead, Candace, and finish going through that. We'll jump over to the mortgage and break it down.
Perfect. All right. So you got your list of debts here. You got Discover, and what they're saying is you're going to pay the balance. So let me show you the detailed report. This is like the summary. And they're telling you which one goes first, right? Now let me take you to the detailed report. So you go down here, and the amount that you were paying on Discover was, let's see here. Let's click it. Here we go. So they're giving you a full breakdown. I believe it was $125 a month. You're adding $100 to it. So let me keep it simple for you. You're adding $100 to the amount that you were paying. So now that $225 that you were paying on, that $225 is going to attack Dillard's for how many payments? 1, 2, all the way down, 9 payments, and it's going to be paid off completely. You see how it tells you how many payments you're going to make? And then the breakdowns are here to where you're able to see the debt summary after making this payment. That's how we're rolling. So you're going to take the original $125 you were paying, right? You're going to add $100 to it. So now I'm paying $225 a month on that one debt, and I'm still paying the minimum amounts on the other debts. I'm not going to stop paying them. I'm just going to apply an extra $100 to that debt and knock it out. And I'm going to do that every single month. Okay. So for the next 9 months is what they're saying that you should do that with. And then we're going to start on the second set of debts. Now it shows you a breakdown here of the small amounts that are due left over. The amounts that are due and left over, what they're saying. Yes. Oh, okay. I'm gonna answer that in a second, Shannon. All right, perfect. So the small amounts that are due, all you're doing is just following the system. Every month, you're going to do exactly what this plan is telling you right here. All right. So you're doing that month in, month out. Now, when you finish paying off Discover, which was the first debt, the second debt was Dillard's. Okay. So now you got $225 plus the 150 that you were paying to Dillard's, and you're going to pay that total amount to now Dillard's because you're adding the debt as you go down the list. Does this make sense? I want to kind of slow up here just to make sure this is making sense. Yes, no, maybe so. Talk to me.
So Candace, go
Okay,
ahead.
perfect. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, I'm confused. Good. Let's talk about it. All right. So, Kamira, let's talk about it. First, we have, let's go here first. Okay, because it's more complicated when you look at it on the long screen. So, Kamira, when we're taking an extra $100 a month, that's all we're taking. The original amount that we were paying on Discover was $150. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, not 150, it was 125. I'm paying $125 on Discover already. I'm gonna add $100 to 125, which makes my now payment $225. That's what shows up right here. Discover 225. Got it? Now, with that 225, I'm going to take that 225 and start with debt number one with my extra 100. I'm going to apply that 225 to Discover every single month. All right. Now, from applying it to Discover every single month, I'm not going to not pay my other payments. I'm still going to pay them. I'm just going to pay the minimal amounts so that I could use the extra 100 plus, of course, what I was already paying on Discover. That's my first debt. Okay, let's make sure we got that. Yes, Karen said it makes sense. I've been doing it wrong for a long time. All right, good. Anybody else? Everybody got it?
Got it.
Got it. Okay, perfect. So from there, good. From that point, okay, we go from, and it's okay if you don't have it. Let's just talk about it. We want to slow down, make sure we get it because that's our point of doing this. All right, so debt one is Discover. Okay, we got debt one, it's Discover, we're paying the 225. In how many months was that? 10 months, basically. In 9 to 10 months, Discover is done. That means I have an extra $225 a month to use toward my next debt. Now, you hear what I said there. I said use toward my next debt, not to go and find something else to do with it and go spend it on other stuff because you got free money. No, we don't have free money. We have free money we have money to allocate toward our next debt. And that next debt happened to be Dillard's. Now we're going to take that whole 225 and add it to our Dillard's amount that is actually going to be included into these numbers. You got it, Kamira. Okay, good.
Wait,
Good.
quick question, Candace. This is Kamira.
Yes. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so that extra 225, now that we paid off Dillard's,
Yes.
not Discover.
Yes.
So now we're going to take the 225 extra that we had.
Mhm.
We're going to start applying the 225 plus the minimum for Dillard's.
There you go. You got it.
Okay, I got it. I got it. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Perfect. That's what we want. The thing is that it's okay for us to make sure we get it, because when you get this stuff, you won't mess it up again. What they say, you know better. When you know better, you do better. Oh man, we doing better now. So this is good. So let me make sure. What was the question? There was a question in the chat that said, let me see. Should you add your student loans to this if they are waiting to be forgiven and you are still paying? So Shannon, that's loaded. Okay. So if you're paying on the student loans and you're waiting to be forgiven, are you on that 10-year forgiveness plan? Because if you are, you can, I wouldn't include it, right? If you know that they're going to be forgiven because you're making the on-time payments for 120 months. All right. Now, if not, okay, and you know your student loans are going to be there for a while, go ahead and include them into your numbers. I have one plan that I'll create for people. This is the plan with student loans. This is the plan without student loans. That's so you can kind of see where you are in your process. So that's totally up to you. But if they're gonna be forgiven and you're pretty certain on that, don't worry about it. But remember, when you hit your 10 years for those payments, just remember that you have to apply for that forgiveness. It's not just going to automatically come to you, okay? That you have to apply for it. So remember that part, okay, Shannon? All right. Perfect. So, Mr. Thomas, I know we kind of went over this. Let's kind of give some more clarity, make sure we got it. And I know we're going to talk about the mortgage and that whole process. So let's go.
Yeah, good deal. All we doing is a debt snowball. we're stopping all our credit card spending. We got a plan. We got a 10-year plan, and the 10-year plan is to be totally out of debt. See, what happens is that when you have debt, you have to service that debt. So that means you got $2,500 to $26 a month going out that you got to go out and make $4,000 to $5,000 a month to service. And as we're talking about this, ladies and gentlemen, I also want you to take that same $2,500. Let's say I got a person that's retired and we're getting ready to retire. And they say, okay, my money is going to drop off. Right now, it's taking me $4,000 a month to live. Think about this now. I'm paying $2,500 in debt. I got another $1,500 a month that I'm using. So if that person came up with a strategy to pay off the mortgage and pay off all the credit cards, and that same $2,500 they're paying in debt, they don't have to service it anymore, and their income dropped down to $3,000 a month when they retire, their lifestyle didn't change at all. I want you to get that now. Person got $2,500 a month they paid in debt. They got $4,000 a month they're living off of. When they get ready to retire, if they don't get rid of the debt and the $4,000 goes down to $3,000, now they're living life in a deficit because they don't have enough money to take care of that $4,000 lifestyle they got, which most of it is a $2,500 in debt. So if you haven't saved enough money for your retirement, if you're in a position where you are worried about that, the best investment you could make is take an extra $100 or $200 a month and get rid of all that debt in the next 8 to 10 years. And now you get a $2,500 raise you gave yourself because now you don't have to service that debt anymore. See, it's real simple. If you don't have the money, you got to make some other adjustments to have a lifestyle you always wanted, but the control is in your hand if you're disciplined enough to follow these very simple principles and create habits. And also, most importantly, create an accountability partner. You got to have that, okay? So that's good, Candace. Any questions before we move into that mortgage? Any questions from anybody?
Any questions? I did have a question in the chat that mentioned, is it best to pay to start with the highest interest rates, or is it best to start with the highest interest rates or the lowest principal payment? The answer is the lowest principal payment. Let me tell you why. There is a feeling about paying debt off. And if I can start with that debt that's only $1,000, now I feel confident because I can pay it off so quickly that, oh, I get excited. That one gone. You know what? I could do that again. I could do that again. I could do that again. It's a sense of confidence, and I like to call it Godfidence in your money and your habits when you pay it off very quickly with that lowest principal amount. So I would definitely encourage to keep the strategy that we just mentioned, the lowest principal payment first, no matter what the interest rate is, that lowest amount that you owe on that card or whatever it is, start there and then go from there because it just feels good to pay that stuff off.
Candace, I think you ought to say that again, because you know what? Intuitively, we want to think that we need to attack the highest interest rate.
Yes, that's
makes
good.
sense.
I'm telling you, you got to have Godfidence. You like that, Miss Karen? She said Godfidence. You create Godfidence when you pay your bills off quickly. And I promise you, it just feels good. Y'all gonna come back and tell us, listen, I paid that card off. I only owe $200 on it. I said, you know what? I'm gonna knock it out. And to see a zero balance, to see that it's paid off quickly, there's a sense of confidence for real. And I call it Godfidence for real. There's a sense of Godfidence when you pay that bill and you pay that thing off and know that, man, I accomplished something, because there's a sense of hope in it, y'all. And when I say there's a sense of hope, sometimes you see your situation and you feel like there's never any way I'm gonna get out of this, right? I ain't never gonna pay this stuff off. I ain't never gonna be debt free. It's a mindset. So you're helping yourself to build that better mindset when you pay that stuff off quickly. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
You know, and more importantly, it gives you a real snapshot at what tomorrow looks like. You know, you have a plan. You're not worried about tomorrow. You're the real CFO of your personal economy, your finances, guys. You guys are getting it. You're getting it. That financial intimacy sheet we gave you guys on the first night, now you begin to see the importance of it. Knowing where your money's at and knowing where it's going is the first step in taking control of your finances. Let's show that mortgage, Candace.
All right. Question in the chat here. What if you have no credit card debt and want to start investing, but your income will not allow extra? What low investment amount can you start with? Mr. Charles, I think that's for you.
Well, that depends. Kind of like Marcus' favorite word. That depends. Depends on what the goals are, and depends on your risk profile. Just depends on a lot of variables. The key to it is just to get started. That's the key, is getting started. Once you get started and start to have it, then we can find out how much you can afford to invest and where it needs to go based off your risk profile, how you handle risk. Good deal.
All right. So we're going to the mortgage.
Yeah, let's go to that mortgage.
All right, let's do it. Yeah. Is it bankrate.com? That's where we're going?
Bankrate.com.
All right. I went to the mortgage calculator. Is that where I'm going?
Yeah, you got the mortgage calculator.
I thought I had it. Let me just make sure.
Yeah, okay.
It looks a little funny from the last time I looked at it. So let's just see.
Yeah, they may have changed it up. And they always change.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is the better one. I like this.
I think we looked at most times about what is it, $185,000, $186,000 house. Kind of keep it midway. But somewhere, yeah.
Let me see if I can just type it. All right, there we go.
All right, there you go. There you go. Okay. I'm gonna put that down payment to what, 5%? There you go.
5, yeah.
30 years.
30 years, 4.25, okay.
That's fine. That's fine. We're just gonna do an example here. So a person's paying $1,050. That includes homeowners insurance, it's estimated taxes. So we got $1,052 on a 30-year mortgage of $185,000. What we're going to talk about now, why it's really, really important to pay your house off in the first 10 to 12 years. We're going to go to the amortization schedule, Candace, so we can show the numbers as they're being paid toward the mortgage. You meant to scroll back up.
Yeah, I think I missed it. Hold on.
Scroll back up and hit the amortization schedule there. Okay.
Gotta see. There we go.
There it is right there. Okay, cool.
All right. No extra money being added, right?
Yeah, no extra money. No extra money at all.
All right.
Because we already talked about the benefit of adding extra money to pay this mortgage off. But we want to look at March 2022. Is that the first payment?
Yes.
Let's see. There you go. First payment is $864 plus $214. Interest payment is $622. Now, somebody do this for me. Take that $900. What is the payment principal? 84. Okay, let's go back and let's get the principal payment. No, just take the $1,052 and do it times 12.
1,052 times 12. Anybody got the numbers?
Got that times 12. I don't know how much is that per year. How much is that?
12,624.
Okay. Now, I want to go down. You see, we owe $175,000 on this house starting in March. I want to go down 10 years. Let's go down to March of 32. Right there, March, right there. Now, somebody take that $12,000 and do it times 10 years. Or how much we paid? How much is that over 10 years? Can somebody jump on the calculator?
So 126,240.
Okay, now take a look at this. You paid $126,000 and you still owed $139,000 on the house. So you paid out about $36,000 of your money went to pay the house off. Now, they tell us all the time, 3.1, 4% interest on these loans and stuff. The only way your loan is a 3.1 or 4% interest loan that you pay it all off in the first year. I want you guys to get that. As you can see right now, that's about an 85% loan because I've paid on it for 10 years, you still owe $139,000. That's your money. Now, just looking at what we just showed you guys on the debt snowball, we can pay this house off. Well, that other house is $250,000. We could probably pay this one off sooner. But I want to go down, Kansas, I want to go down to 15 more years. 15 more years. That's 30, what, 7? What, 15, 32, 47? Yeah, 47. All right. So in March of 47, we finally made a dent. We owe $46,000 in the house. but we spent another $60,000. We spent $180,000 to borrow $175,000. So ladies and gentlemen, you cannot afford not to know this information and not take advantage of it by using the current money you're paying in debt to get rid of this. Go down to 20 years, Candace, and we'll finish at 20 years, okay? Another 10 years. Well, what is it, 5 years from that? Yeah, total 20 years is 52. There you go, 52.
52.
52.
Well, I think I did 30 years, so it would be what, 48?
48, yeah. I think it started in 2022, so 20.
So.
22. Okay.
Which one you want me to do? I don't know.
And we can't count. Okay.
Not today.
The point I want to make, though, in 20 years, you spent about $240,000 on a home, and you still owe about $29,000 on it. Once you understand what your mortgage is doing to you, then you got to make it your point to get rid of that mortgage in 10 to 12 years. So you can take that excess money you got earmarked off that mortgage and start investing it, okay? You got to start investing it. Any questions concerning how this mortgage works and what you're paying your money into? Any questions? Now let's go to make break calculator, the investment calculator, investment calculator.
So is it and I think, let's see here. Uh-oh. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I think that Jamil just made the point in the chat that technically your interest rate is accurate at that 4.25%, is only accurate if you pay the mortgage off in the first year.
Absolutely.
Is that right? Okay.
Absolutely. He's accurate. Yeah, you're accurate.
All
So
right.
we're talking about debt tonight. And the debt snowball and this mortgage is kind of a driving home point for us, for you guys to understand the movement of money and how the institutions are making money off of you. The credit card companies, the mortgage companies, they're all making money off of stuff that you don't know. It's not that you don't have the money, you're paying your bills every month. But once you understand the movement of money and how the debt works based off the investment and interest, then you understand how important it is to be very deliberate and give your money some direction. Now, Kenneth, go to the mortgage calculator, not the mortgage calculator, but the savings calculator, simple savings calculator. Put me, just put what is it? Was it $2,600 on that particular? Yeah, put $2,600 in there. If you guys remember, on the debt snowball, we're spending $2,600 to pay all the debt off in 10 years. It was 16 years left on the debt. Okay. Right. 16 years left. So we're going to take the same $2,600 now that we were spending. Now we're going to put it into an investment that's paying 10% a year over 16 years. We're going to use 10% over 16 years. The same money that you were using to pay debt off, to keep a roof over your head, was costing you $1.1 million. That's $1.1 million at 55 or 65 or 70. And guess what? When you get 65 or 70, you're not going to roll over and die. That money's going to sit there and grow for another 5, 10, to 15 years. And this is how you create generational wealth out of the money that you're already making. Once you take responsibility and get radical about what you're seeing. See, it doesn't change your lifestyle. You just need a strategy, a spending plan that fits inside your budget, a spending plan that finds $100, $200, or $300 that you can use this strategy to work with. Any questions? We want you to. Any questions?
That's so good. I think they're in awe. They do that a lot. I think they're in awe, Mr. Thomas. I think they're in awe.
Well, documentation beats conversation.
I have a question.
Okay, Denise. Who's that?
Sandy Harris.
Ms. Harris, go ahead.
My only real debt is a mortgage payment. Mm-hmm. How would I go about cutting it down to 10 years, since I can't really use the debt snowball strategy?
Okay. Two things. First thing you want to do is take your mortgage to, if you notice the house you're going to be living in, I want to put a caveat in here. If you know you're going to be in a house 5 to 7 years, you're going to sell it and buy another house, sell it and buy another house, do not apply excess money to pay off your mortgage. Let it appreciate in value. Take the excess money and put it into investments, okay? If you know it's the house you're gonna be living in, then take the excess money, pay your mortgage every 2 weeks, twice a month. Just by paying it twice a month, it's gonna generate a 30-year mortgage to about a 23-year mortgage, okay? And just take your extra $400 or $500 a month and invest in it. And the same house with that extra $400 or $500 a month is gonna pay itself off in about 10 to 12 years with that basic, simple strategy. So now you're investing in your debt. You're investing in your mortgage. Real important. Any questions? You guys are awful quiet. You're supposed to be talking about this thing. Maybe it makes sense. I don't know.
Questions, comments, observations? Did you learn something? Are you okay? Are you breathing? Everybody breathing?
You guys are doing a great job. Great job.
I have a question, Candace. On that debt snowball calculator, what is the difference between the accelerated debt payoff total and the current?
Your current is what you would have been paying. So on the regular payments, if you did not apply the extra $100 in this example, then that's your current. That's without the 100. But when you add the $100, that makes it to where that's your accelerated plan. And in this case, it's just 100. You can add as much as you desire, but that's the accelerated plan. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, no problem. Good question.
So, this is Charles again.
Charles. Hey, Charles.
Okay, Mr. Charles. The question I asked earlier, so I do need to do bi-monthly payments still, although I'm putting maybe $800 extra a month, but I still need to do every 2 weeks payment too?
If you're doing bi-monthly, there's a lot of factors here. If you just bought the mortgage, how much you have left on the mortgage. There are a couple of factors here. How much equity you got inside the mortgage. If your goal is to pay it off early in the next 5 or 7 years, based off of certain factors, your personal factors, then I would say yes, or take the $800 a month and maybe put it inside of investment and just come back and use the excess money and pay the house off. There are a couple of variables when you do pay a house off early, is that you want to make sure you're in a good financial position. You don't want to develop a whole bunch of excess equity inside that house. But there's just certain variables on your health and other stuff. Because if you lose it, here's the problem, guys. If you lose a job now, you got a whole bunch of equity inside your house, and you can't pay the house note, the bank's probably going to come after you first. Okay, I need you to know that, because you are a very, very valuable piece of property. That's why I say, if it's a house that you know you're going to retire in, you want to get rid of the debt, and everything else is in order, your emergency fund and other stuff is in order, your financial foundation with your protection part of your program, if all that stuff's in order, then yes, you can move forward and pay that house off as quick as you can, pay $1,000 a month. But all those other variables have to be in place, or else you can't do it. Because you got to have something that's going to self-complete, Charles, what you're planning to do. And we're going to get into the insurance and disability and all that kind of stuff, which is going to be the foundation piece you have to put together before you do any kind of strategies. It's real important. So yours may be a one-off. We have to look at that, look at your overall situation to make sure the other areas are taken care of. Look at your equity. Just some questions we need to ask you personally to make sure that $800 a month is working for you.
So Kep, on top of that, do you need to make any special arrangements with your mortgage company in order to pay twice a month versus monthly?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You want to go to your mortgage company and ask them, do they have a program where you can pay it twice a month? If they don't have a program, you may have to hire an outside program to do that for you.
Okay, yes, they do have one.
Good deal.
But I've been doing it, I was doing it on my own. I was just paying every 14 days.
Well, one of the things you want to watch out with that is that if you're paying on your own, you got to make sure you come back every 6 months and audit your mortgage and make sure the payments are all going toward principal. Because if they're not going toward principal, you got to go back and tell them to reapply it toward principal, because they may be just making a payment and a lot of money going into interest payments.
Gotcha.
Very
okay.
important.
Dick and Thomas, I think that that's a very interesting and very good point. Because if you overpay or make more than your minimum payment, it's not automatically applied to the principal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you will
Yes,
always,
that was a lesson learned before. Call, and don't be afraid to call. You all, we're giving our money to these people. This is your money. So don't be afraid to call the service providers and, tell them what you need to happen for you.
absolutely. It's called being deliberate. It's called being intentional. It's called becoming the CEO, the CFO of your life. And this is taking control of it right here. This is it.
Awesome. All right, we have about 4 minutes. Any last questions? Anything? The night has been amazing. Y'all have had great questions. You've had great insights. Been wonderful.
I have one more question.
Sure.
If you're paying your payments on the computer and you put a note in it when you're paying the second portion of it and says apply to principal only, if they don't have a plan where you can pay bi-weekly, would that automatically go, or should we just do what you suggested, just every 6 months, do a follow-up on it?
You definitely want to follow up. It's very important. Especially if they don't have a system to do that for you. If they have a system, just get their system to do it for you. They can print out a report on where the payments went. Okay. But if you're doing it manually, then unfortunately, you got to follow back up with them a couple times a year.
Okay. Because I looked at the program where I pay every month and it told me that I have saved 11 payments just by doing what I was doing.
Wow. That's a whole year almost. Congratulations. That's good. That's good. That's good.
So there was a question here as well that says, does it make sense to make a large payment to credit cards before you start the Snowball process?
No, you just address that with the minimum payments. Make sure you're clear they can get that.
Yes. So the answer is no. We definitely want to use the plan just as we did. So if you have a large sum of money, then that means let's make sure you got your emergency fund in place, right? We want at least 3,000. I'm sorry, let me be clear, $1,000 to start, but you want a minimum of 3,000 in that savings account. So if you're using emergency fund money or contingency plan money to pay off the credit cards, that may not be the best thing because you paid the credit card off and then something happens and you have no cash, right? I mean, they could be used, but let's just be clear, we want to do things in order. So a minimum of 1,000, max of 3,000 in that savings account. Then we work on your major emergency fund. But when we're talking about just paying your debt off, let's just start there. So you got your 3,000 set or your $1,000 set, and now we're going to your emergency fund. Your question was, do I do a large payment on other, what you say, credit cards? No. The large payment that you have, let's say it's outside of the 3,000 you already have. You got an extra 1,000 as your large payment. Take it to the smallest principal amount and take it there, right? That's the plan, because now you're accelerating your plan. Don't go and pay your stuff out of order again. Let's stick to the plan. So whatever your debt plan says, do that. Mm-hmm. And it's always hard for us to give real specific advice because we don't know your situation. We don't know if you're investing. We don't know how much money you have in different places. But if we're talking just generalized, that's what I would say. You agree with that, Mr. Thomas?
Absolutely. Good explanation.
Absolutely. Good stuff. All right. Perfect. We are very close to our time. Your homework or success steps, like I like to call it, your steps are to make sure you're doing your financial binders. Anyone have it done yet or almost done? We're hoping that you're working on those things. Jamil, Mr. Thomas, Marcus, do we have any other assignments besides the that conversation? I mean, because I know next week we're talking about real estate and we're talking about estate planning. Isn't that next week's conversation? Where is my book? Everybody, if you agree with that?
Ma'am.
All right.
That's correct.
Perfect. So it's going to be wonderful. So your assignment is to work on that. If you didn't do your assignments from last week, do them this week, right? Anything else, anybody?
So here's the thing I want you guys to start doing. Get you an accountability partner. If you have a spouse, let's start sitting down at least once a month, minimum, and having business meetings at the kitchen table. Okay, so let's sit down and talk about where all the money's going. Let's share the spending plans, and just if you got an accountability partner, of course, most times you're going to stick to it if you got somebody doing it with you. If you don't have a spouse or a significant other, get a friend, somebody you trust, and get them to go on this journey with you based off what you've learned. Okay, it's really important to stay focused. Your money is really, really important, guys, and you can do a lot with it. We can, as a race and a nation of people. We just kind of driving that home. That's the whole purpose. Keep working on your spending plans. Keep looking for money, ways to spend money, ways to save money, at least not spend, but save. And I think that's pretty much it, Ken. That's all I have.
All right.
Also, I would just add real quickly that, when you get your money right, it takes some stress off of you.
It does.
It relieves the stress. It takes the pressure off of you.
Absolutely.
It really does.
Can you say it one more time, Mr. Marcus? Just say it one more.
When you get your money right, it relieves the pressure.
Absolutely.
Pressure is what's burst pipes. Pressure breaks bridges.
Absolutely.
Get rid of that pressure.
Absolutely.
You can do it. You've got the tools by coming through this class.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Amen. Well, let's pray.
Who's volunteered tonight? Any volunteers? No? Not?
I'll pray.
Oh, lifesaver. You gonna pray tonight?
Yep, I'll pray.
Good deal.
All right. Dear Lord, before we ask you for anything, we just like to thank you for everything. Thank you for allowing us to be in this space, be in this place, to have the mindset to come to a class that help us to be better stewards of what you have already given us. It's not even ours, Lord, it's yours. Well, Lord, we'd like to thank you for just giving us that mindset. Lord, we ask you to help us to not only be hearers, but doers of the information shared tonight, Lord. Lord, anything that helps us, that comes into our way, that keeps us away from hitting our goals or hitting those areas that you want us to hit, Lord, so we can be better stewards of our finances for your glory. Lord, we ask you to take those out of the way. Lord, we ask you to bless us as we go back to our regular schedules for the week. Help us to have a great week and to stay focused on what you have in mind for our lives. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
One last thing, Candace. One last homework. Write down and put this on your refrigerator, put it on your computer, and put it on your car dashboard. Hope is not a strategy. Got it?
Okay.
Say it one more time. Say it one more time.
Hope is not a strategy. I want you to keep that in front of you, okay?
Okay.
A great night, Marcus. Great teaching, Candace. Great to be with you guys tonight. Good night.
All right. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a blessed week.
You too. Thank you.